Manchester United come in the FA Cup this weekend. The FA Cup, it's Arsenal's pride and joy, really. 14 wins, more than any other team. But I think since they last won it in 2020, they've not been past the fourth round. A bit disappointing on that front. But the top prizes for Mikel now are the Premier League and the Champions League. So obviously, you don't want to, you don't want to lose at home. But do you think? I don't want to say that it's really low down on their priority list, but is it maybe not as high on their priority list as it used to be? Do you think, not every Arsenal fan will be losing sleep if they go out of the FA Cup early?
No, although probably, I don't know, the feeling if they do go out, Arsenal had a bit of bad runs in the FA Cup recently. Yeah, I think they need to try and go deep in this competition. I don't think Arsenal are in a position really to be able to prioritise competitions too much. It's been a long time since Arsenal lifted trophy, which obviously was the FA Cup 5 years ago now, Mikel's first season. It's been a long time since then. So I don't think they can really sort of wash their hands of any competition. They've got to go for all of them. That's why I've been really happy with how they've approached the Carabao Cup this season. I thought that was a competition they needed to try and win, and they have, he's rotated, but he's kept a strong squad and given themselves enough to get themselves to the situation they're in. I think with the FA Cup, after what happened last season, look, they've lost to Liverpool last season. You've had the defeats at Nottingham Forest, haven't you? That sort of come to mind in the recent seasons as well. I feel like they need to show that they can cope with the demands of these sort of games. Yes, I'm sure he'll make a couple of changes for United, but he will take it seriously. And yeah, it's not. Obviously, I think probably linking priorities at the start of the season, it would have been what Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, no doubt about that. But you still got to try and win these competitions. Just because they're lower down on your priority list, you still got to try and win them. And it's a big competition for Arsenal. The FA Cup, like you said, it's a historic competition for Arsenal, and they've not been good enough in recent years. So no, I don't. I think he'll go strong for this one.
Yeah, especially seeing as, I think when the draw came out, Man United obviously weren't doing amazingly well. So Arsenal fans might have thought, okay, this is a really good opportunity to get another one over Man United. But then their performance at the weekend, as we mentioned, nobody expected them to go to Anfield and, nearly win the game if any other player besides Harry Maguire wasn't in that position for that last minute chance. So would you say it's, possibly a bad time to play Man United?
I don't know if it's a bad time to play them. Look, they were very good. Fair play to them. I did not see that performance coming against Liverpool. I thought Liverpool would win that fairly comfortably, but it's only a couple of days before that they were absolutely played off the park by Newcastle at Old Trafford. So I wouldn't say it's a bad time to play them. You'd think United are going to be confident after that draw. They're going to have a week to prepare pretty much for the game as well. Where Arsenal have got this semi-final in between. So, Amarim, I think it's the first week that Amarim's not going to have had a midweek game. He's going to have like 7 days on the training ground with the players. So you think that's going to help them, no doubt about it. But I still think Arsenal, if they play, I watched Arsenal play Man United just a month ago, and Arsenal weren't great on that occasion. They were still comfortably better than Manchester United. So as long as they play well this weekend at home, I'd still back them to win. United will be boosted by that performance at Anfield. They were good. Fair play to them, but I don't think necessarily that means it's a bad time for Arsenal to play them.
Yeah, and of course we're filming this before the Newcastle game, so we haven't seen Arteta's team for that one yet. But in terms of possible team news for that Man United game, you mentioned that there'd be some rotation for the Newcastle game, potentially some rotation for this game. Do you think we could possibly see a debut for Neto in goal? Because of course he's cup tied for the EFL Cup, but he's fine to play in the FA Cup. So do you think he's a player who could possibly come for a start and maybe a Miles Lewis Skelly or a Zinchenko, any players it's a difficult tie, of course, Man United at home, but it does seem like a good opportunity to bring some more players sort of back in from the cold, if you say.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of players that are available to Arsenal kind of make it hard to rotate too much at the moment because there's so many players who are injured. But I don't think he'll play Neto. I still think he'll go with David Raya. I don't think he'll feel under any obligation to play Neto in these games. He's there purely as backup for David Raya, but I think for the FA Cup he'll play Raya. Um, I think Lewis Skelly might well come in for tonight's game against Newcastle, and if that's the case, then Calafiori will probably start against United at the weekend. That is an area where you can do something. I think Zinchenko's been underused this season. I have to admit, I don't. He's fallen way down the pecking order. Arsenal, I think he has been underused. I think he's an option to play in that sort of left eight role that Arteta just hasn't utilised, and it's really surprised me because we can see him play there for Ukraine and play there very, very well. Yet Arteta just clearly doesn't fancy him in that role. But I think he could play really well there for Arsenal and add some creativity that they sort of lack in that in that central area. So I wouldn't mind. I'd like to see Zinchenko get a few more minutes, and United's definitely a potential option for that. But elsewhere, like I said, the options are so slim at the moment because of injuries and things like that. I don't think he's in a position where he could really rotate too much.